Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of On the Move with Caravan Football Preview with Jim Powers. I'm with Jim Powers. Jim, how are we doing today?
Doing well. It's cold. It's football
It's
weather.
cold, man.
We got a little snow. We got some cold. This is what football weather's supposed to be all about. And it's going to be cold this weekend. But I tell you what, great performances last week and a few surprises. Not a few, not some of the teams made it that we thought could. But once again, I think we're setting up for some great semifinals in Class 6 and then definitely the quarterfinals with the rest of the classes as we get ready to roll to Fairfield Field next Saturday for the Class 6 game and then the following week for everybody else.
Yeah, I mean we're right around the corner. You said it's cold, but I think we've got some hot matchups coming up here this weekend because I tell you what, there's some good football that's been played, and as we've discussed for many weeks, there's only better football yet to come.
Yeah, without a doubt. And yeah, I mean they're just all across the state, just not here in the metro. They're just terrific matchups. And I think we're seeing the teams, most of the teams that we thought were going to be here, we're seeing in this stage of the ball game. But once again, a couple surprises coming out of the district playoffs, and it's going to be interesting to see how they can go as we get through the next 3 weeks.
Yeah, and that's going to be the key. Is I mean, just trying to maintain, everybody trying to stay healthy and having your best team out there on the field. So let's jump right into Class 3, and one of our highlighted matchups is Cardinal Ritter playing at Park Hill Central. And Jim, let's talk a little bit about this one.
Well, Park Hill Central avenged the loss to Valley earlier this year in a terrific ball game. And what people don't understand, on Friday night, the wind cranked up and it just got brutal out, for these kids. Central used their ground game and they ground and pounded. They did what they love to do, and they kind of took it to Valley a little bit, But once again, I like this Central team. Sorry, I like Ritter a little bit better. Better yet, I like Ritter a lot better. I mean, once again, they've got speed on the edges. They beat U City last week. I don't know if Central's seen a team that's going to throw that much speed at them at one given time offensively, and that's going to make it awfully tough to defend. And that's where Ritter's going to be able to take advantage. I think they could have a big night through the air, against a defense that hasn't seen the type of receivers that Ritter's going to throw at you.
Yeah, they're on another level as far as their athleticism is concerned. Being Class 3, they can compete with all kinds of schools that are bigger than them, and they just have so much out there.
Yeah, without a doubt, and that's been their calling card all year. And once again, this is a team that's had one thing on their mind from August 8th to right now, and that's we're going to state, or this season wasn't successful. And you got to remember too, this Cardinal Ritter team, this is a team that pulled themselves out of the state playoffs a couple of years ago because of an ineligible player. And you really thought something like that could really bottom out a program, but I think it made it stronger. And I think, hiring Coach Spain was an absolute steal. I think he's done a terrific job, and he's really brought a lot to the program to solidify things, to make things a lot better. And you're seeing that on the field right now. And once again, I think they have one thing on their mind: state championship.
And I don't know how anybody is going to stop them. I mean, no disrespect to the rest of the field because we have some great teams that are still playing, but they're just on another level. And I don't know if there's any other team that can match up with them and play with what they have.
Yeah, and there's not a lot of teams because when you look down below, you've got Grain Valley, you've got I'm sorry, Pleasant Hill and Maryville. And Maryville is a ground and pound team. When you're in Class 3, you don't get a lot of teams that'll chuck the ball around all over the place, like a Ritter does. That they rely a lot on their offensive line, great rushing attack, guys that can, create holes, guys that can run through holes. And you're exactly right. I don't think teams have seen the team speed that Cardinal Ritter brings to the table week in and week out. And that's going to be a challenge for anybody that they play moving on forward.
Yeah, so it's going to be curious. I'm curious to see how that's going to play, but at the same time, I really, and again, no disrespect to anybody else, I just don't see anybody matching up with them in Class 3. I think they're on a a roller coaster that's heading straight towards that state championship game. Let's jump into Class 4 and take a look at some of those matchups that we have here. We have two highlighted matchups in Class 4. We'll start with Hillsboro playing at St. Mary's, and our second one is Parkway Central at St. Dominic. So, Jim, let's talk a little bit about these.
Somebody's getting healthy at the right time. How about Hillsboro getting Austin Romaine back offensively? And yeah, I haven't run the ball in 4 weeks. I'm just going to go for 132 and score a few touchdowns. Easy day at the office.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, getting Austin back offensively is huge. And this is where St. Mary, in St. Mary's, they took everything that Summit threw at them. And I know Summit threw the kitchen sink at them, but, when you've got speed like St. Mary's does, it turns into an interesting matchup. Now, what Hillsboro is going to lean on is how they played Ritter a couple weeks ago. They played Ritter extremely well. You put the ball on the turf twice, those turns into touchdowns. That's the difference in the ball game. Plus, you don't have Austin Romaine. So you're going to see the same type of speed. They were able to handle the speed. I don't know if St. Mary's can handle the big boys up front that are going to create holes for, Romaine and his running mate back there. So I think this is the best game of the weekend. I think this is going to be a knockdown dragout. I know not a lot of people are giving Hillsboro a lot of credit or a lot of props. We've been giving them that all year long. And I'm telling you, I think they could shock the world. But they're going to have to play the near perfect game in order to do that. And they're going to have to hit it on all three levels, offense, defense, and special teams.
Yeah, they're going to take care of the ball because that was the reason that Ritter was able to pull away and beat those guys was just some untimely turnovers. And if they can control the ball and wear down St. Mary's, that can negate their speed and athleticism. Not to say that Hillsboro doesn't have their own speed and athleticism,
sure,
but it does play into their favor for this matchup.
Yeah, without that. And once again, Hillsboro's got their speed and all that stuff. But once again, when we talk about those different levels of speed, that's where St. Mary's has got a little bit of a different level than what Hillsboro does. And that's no disrespect. That's real world. That's the gist of it right now. But yeah, I mean, this game's going to be one up front without a doubt. And I think it goes deep into the fourth quarter, and this could be last possession wins the ball game type of game. So I'm looking forward to watching this one Saturday afternoon.
I agree. I think it's the best game left to play that's going to be played this weekend. And then let's look at Parkway Central and St. Dom. They're matched up here. Jim, let's talk a little bit about that one.
Well, you know what? And I hate to admit it. Parkway Central's come out of nowhere. I mean, they were not on anybody's radar until late in the season. And then all of a sudden they get the 1 seed in the district. They get the district run. They beat Vashon last week in a defensive battle, 17-7. I mean, when you're doing that against a really good Vashon team, that's kind of showing you right then and there that they're going to be a team to reckon with. Then you look at St. Dom's. This is a team, second straight district. They're doing it without Jackson Overton, who is on the level of a Cole Rubel and a Kevin Emanuel and an Austin Romaine. Hurt his collarbone in the last, in the Jamboree and hasn't been able to play all year. But what Blake Markway's done with that Crusader team is just terrific. This game, in my mind, is a toss-up. I think it's a great game. It's a toss-up. Both teams, Parkway Central looking to get back to the state championship. I believe the last time they made it was 2012, 2013, right in that ballpark. St. Dom's looking for that first trip. But the problem is when you look down below on both sides of those brackets, on the St. Mary's side, you got a Smithville team who played in the state championship last year, won the state championship last year. You look on the other side of the bracket, Hannibal West Plains, a Hannibal team that has unfinished business because they lost to Smithville in the championship game last year. So you've got some big stumbling blocks coming ahead of you. You take care of your business this week. But I'm telling you, some great games in Class 4 all across the board coming up in the quarters.
100% agree. And I personally, got to root for St. Dominic because I think Blake's such a good guy and know him.
Yeah.
But he has done a fantastic job as far as that's concerned with the St. Dominic program. Let's move on to let's talk about our Class 5 matchup here with Hal at Timberland. Jim, talk a little bit about that one.
Yeah, you know what? And once again, these two teams matched up earlier in the year. Hal beat them up pretty good. And honestly, I don't see any different in this ball game. Hal is just playing at another level. Adam Shipley has been terrific running that quarterback position, running that, offense. And they're going to be tough to beat. But once again, you still look at that loaded right side of the bracket. You got the number 1 team, the number 2 team, and the number 4 team still left, and they're all on the right side. I mean, golly. And I say it again, here we go. Yes, Class 5 is the toughest classification. You win that, you're the best team in the state. I still hold true to it. But yeah, it's going to be a good game. It'll be a great crowd at Timberland. But how, once again, I think when they saw they dropped to 5, they knew that there were going to be a lot of expectations, and they're matching every expectation that there is. And that, once again, a team on a mission to make it to state. I still say this. I would love to see Hal and CBC play this year. I think that game would just be off the chart ridiculous. But yeah, I think Hal takes care of their business, and then you got Carthage and you got Lebanon down below. I mean, that game may be the game of the weekend, other than the Class 6 game we're going to talk about here in a little bit. Two teams that just absolutely don't like each other. You're battling for a spot in the semifinal. I mean, there's going to be a lot in that ball game. And then you look at the other side, too, in a team that, MICDS, what a terrific win they had over Eureka in the district final. Winston Moss and Stephen Hall combined for, once again, second week in a row, they've combined for over 250 yards offense. This MICDS team is going to be a tough out.
Yeah, I agree. And then they're playing Cape Central, who got a chance to beat Poplar Bluff, who upset Jackson in the district semifinals. And I don't think Cape Central is quite at that level that MICDS is. They can play with any school in the state just about. They're really, really, really good. And then you got 2 other good teams in Green Valley and Fort Osage as well that'll be playing. And I really think that MICDS could find their way in the state championship game.
Yeah, but you know what, though? Once again, a Fort Osage team that lost to Holt last year in the state semi. Once again, a little bit of unfinished business, like we talked about with Hannibal. Holt, the Fort Osage has as well, and they're a really talented team again this year. So once again, it's not going to be easy to get through that side of the bracket. Maybe just a smidge easier on the left side than to get through the right side. But I'm telling you, Class 5, absolutely loaded, and we're going to be in store for a couple fantastic games.
Let's go to Class 6, where there's no quarterfinal games because we only have the 4 districts of 8 that created our semifinal matchups. So we got both games are highlighted, obviously, with 2 great ones with CBC taking on Liberty North and our favorite DeSmet team that doesn't necessarily have that record that everybody looks at.
They just don't want to go away.
No, they don't. That's why you play those teams, and they're playing Lee Summit North. So Jim, let's talk a little bit about Class 6.
Well, I'm right. I mean, once again, when the brackets came out, when you saw that was going to be 1 versus 4, 2 versus 3, everybody in the world knew 1 and 2 were going to hook up in the state semi. Rematch of the Class 6 game last year that CBC won. This time they get to CBC has to go out west to Kansas City to play Liberty North. Liberty North team, they remember last year. They remember the 4 turnovers that led to 3 touchdowns. They remember the special teams that didn't go their way. They remember Patrick Hyder basically ripping apart their defense. This team is going to be much more prepared. Now, once again, CBC a little bit different than what we've seen in the past. Better running game. When you've got, Van, you've got Love, you've got McClellan on the edge. There's still the weapons there, but they're a little bit of a different team than what we saw in the championship game last year. I think this game goes down to the wire. It's going to be a packed house at Liberty North next Saturday afternoon. It is going to be insane. Those fans have been wanting this rematch all year long. 1 and 2 in the state. They're going to get it. It's going to be a tough road trip for CBC. Pick'em game could go either way. Basically, the team that turns the ball over the least is going to come out the victory, because we saw what happened last year with the turnovers for Liberty North that led to CBC touchdowns.
Yeah, good teams whenever you turn the ball over, they take advantage of it, and I 100% agree. I think that's the way the game is going to go is who doesn't give the ball away because those giveaways are going to turn into points no matter what.
Absolutely. And then you look at the other semifinal. DeSmet gets the host. I mean, the Road Warriors win 3 on the road, to get to this point, to host in the semi. And once again, it's not that we're knocking them. Their schedule was just brutal. I mean, you're
Oh,
playing
it's brutal.
IMG, you're playing CBC, you're playing East St. Louis, you're playing Edwards. I mean, it's just a brutal schedule. And they're healthy. And that's the big key to this whole thing is this DeSmet team is healthy right now. But Lee Summit North did what a lot of people didn't think could happen, and that's beat Nixa at Nixa. You really, and I watched a little bit of that game Friday night, and I was kind of surprised with how Lee Summit North kind of took it to the Eagles. So you can't take them out of the box and take them out of the ball game. It's going to be a physical battle between two really good teams. I don't know who's going to win that game. I'm personally hoping for an All St. Louis championship next Saturday afternoon at Faurot Field. I'm not sure we're going to get that. We may actually see an All Kansas City final. I mean, who in the world knows what's going to take place on Friday and Saturday, but it's going to be 2 fun semifinal games to see who's going to play next Saturday at Faurot.
Yeah, Lee Summit North beating Nixa. It was kind of like that pick that you had in Class 6 that everybody needs to watch. So they're obviously a good team to beat that good of a team, especially
Yeah.
beating them at home. And as much as as much as we'd like to, I'd like to see the All St. Louis. I don't know if it's possible. I think one of these Kansas City teams, the Kansas City area teams, are going to get one of the St. Louis area teams. But at the same time, what great football. And if it was all St. Louis, what a great matchup that would be.
Yeah, and then you'll get all the St. Louis people complain, well, why don't we just play the game here at Lindenwood University instead of driving 2 hours? You can't
Because
make
hey,
everybody happy.
no, you can't. I mean, it's not like there's a NFL team stadium around in St. Louis anywhere that
Someplace
you could play at.
downtown, yeah.
Oh no, it to me. I always thought that playing the state championship in the center of the state, in the middle of
Yeah.
the state, where it's kind of conducive for everybody to drive wise. And then of course we have Columbia there. We have Mizzou, and their football field is fantastic. Throw field is awesome, especially with all the upgrades. So I think it's the best environment to play. And that's just we don't
Oh,
need to play in the Edward Jones Dome anymore, nothing like that.
no,
Let's play out there.
yeah, I totally agree. I love the Central, and once again, with some of the things that may be coming down the pipeline with the football playoffs, then it gets really interesting because you're not going to be able to play Faurot Field every year. You're going to have to go back and forth. And, I think Plaster Field down in Springfield is fantastic. I like Plaster because I think size-wise, it's perfect. It's not too big, it's not too small. But it'll be interesting to see how that all shakes out in January when, all the athletic directors and the principals and have the vote on what they want to do with different topics and issues and all that kind of stuff. But I'm excited to get back to Columbia. I'll be calling the Class 6 game next Saturday, and then I'll have the 8-man game and the Class 4 game the following weekend. So it's going to be a lot of fun to get back out to Faurot and have that, call some great football.
I'm sure you're going to enjoy that. And if you're looking for something to check out before the games come on, and then before any of those matchups, we always have great content with Scoops with Danny Mack. What we got on there this week?
Yeah, talk to Winston Moore. What a terrific kid. He was our student athlete of the week. Going to Colgate, and if you're going to Colgate, you must be doing something right, not only on the football field but also in the classroom. Just a terrific kid. On the podcast today, had a chance to my monthly visit with Earl Austin Jr. And I was telling Danny Mack earlier, yesterday. I said, me and Earl, we could sit there for 2 hours and it would feel like 10 minutes and just talk about high school sports. And it's great to get Earl on every month on the podcast. And then Friday we'll have football preview. We'll also have soccer preview because state soccer's at Soccer Park this weekend. Some great teams that are going to be doing battle there. And then, next week it'll be an abbreviated week because of Thanksgiving. We'll have some stuff up. I know we'll do our stuff a little earlier next week to preview the Class 6 championship. We'll also talk a little bit about Turkey Day next week because I get to announce for the 12th year, I believe it is now, the Kirkwood Webster Groves game. In the last game in Moss Field as Moss Field exists now, because they passed the bond issue and they're going to be renovating everything, which I'm really excited about for those kids. So a lot of great free content, and that's what we want to do. We want to get some free stuff out there for the fans, and have a little bit of fun with it.
Absolutely, and that's why we do this show, and that's why you guys do what you do with the Scoops with Danny Mac. So, Jim, again, we're winding down, but it's going to be another great weekend of high school football.
Without a doubt. And guess what? In 2 weeks, we can start talking basketball, which I know that's what you want to do. So
absolutely, because we're almost at that point too.
Yeah, we'll start getting into some basketball here in a few weeks. So, but yeah,
there we go.
A lot of fun, and let's get through the next couple weeks of football, and then we'll start talking hoops.
Sounds good. Well, thank you for tuning in, everyone, for another episode of On the Move with the Caravan Football Preview with Jim Powers. We will see you again right here next week. Have a good one.
Tune in for new episodes of Coach's Box each week on our Facebook page, YouTube channel, or the Streamline Sports app. And you can also listen to our show on Apple Podcasts, Google, and Spotify. This episode of On the Move with the Caravan Football Preview with Jim Powers is brought to you by Scoops with Danny Mac and Off the Rails Media. Life's more fun when you're off the rails.